You're talking about N'Zoth. Okay, okay. For a second there, when I read Cthulhu, I was like, Cthulhu has been dead for a long time, so I don't know how we get there now. But, alright, so if we're talking about instead of talking about specific old gods, so talking about N'Zoth or Yisaraj or Cthulhu or even Yogg-Saron, let's just talk about the Void. Because there's one thing that I think a lot of people miss. The old gods are simply fragments of the Void Lords. So every old god has a larger and much more powerful Void Lord that it is attached to. And these Void Lords have their own viewpoints. So one of the arguments I have made for such a long time is the reason the old gods were at war with one another when the Titans arrived on Azeroth. The reason they were fighting each other consistently, trying to beat each other out, is because we already know, thanks to the preface of War, Enemy Infiltration, the book that leaked even before Shadowlands was launched, we know that the Void is obsessed with 1,000 truths. Right? The Void believes in almost every single truth. That does not mean that every single Void entity believes in every single 1,000 truths. It just believes, in my opinion, that the Void is the most fractured of all of the cosmological forces. In other words, they all believe something different. They have multiple paths that they believe. So you may have one that believe in 500. You have another that believes in another 500, right? So they are the hardest, according to the Nathrazim at least. They were the hardest to infiltrate. Well, not the hardest to infiltrate, but they were difficult to infiltrate exactly because of this. Because you don't know if they've already figured out what the fuck you're up to. Right? Because they see 1,000 truths as a legitimate thing. So you don't know if they already see or foresee the thing that you're going to do to them, the fact that you would infiltrate them, right? That's what makes them extremely dangerous. So this is why every single old god on the universe is consistently fighting each other. This is why they're consistently trying to push each other out, because they have different viewpoints of what the universe should ultimately become. Which one of the old gods should ultimately be the last man standing, right? So they are perfectly capable of working together, and we've seen them working together, but they would only work together if they stand to gain in working with the other, right? They wouldn't just work together. And Xalatath have said this multiple times in many different ways. We know that they've been at war with one another. So what happened to the old gods? Now, here's where we get into some light speculation. I say light because, well, we don't actually know. So let's first go over what we know about the old gods, and then we go into what I think about the old gods. What do we know? We know, thanks to interviews by Steve Denuser, that the only way to truly kill an old god would be to kill that old god inside the Void, right? As long as the old god wasn't killed inside the Void, the old god is very much alive and kicking, right? This we know. This is factual. This is canonical. It's been literally repeated multiple times in multiple interviews, and all you have to do is type in Steve Denuser interview Akalon. You'll see all of the interviews that I've covered with Steve Denuser. I don't think I've ever missed a single interview with Steve Denuser, right? So it is in all of those interviews almost. He gets asked this quite a lot. In various forms, but we know that in order to kill an entity, you must kill that entity in its home base, so to speak. Otherwise, it will simply be reborn, right? Return to its source and then be reborn. Alright, so the old gods are not dead. This is factually true. The old gods are not dead. They are still there. They've most likely just returned to the source. Now, here's where we get into slight speculation. The Titans were the ones who told us how the old gods got to the Great Beyond. We have zero evidence to suggest that the Titans even knew. Because we have zero evidence that the Titans ever encountered a Void Lord, or more importantly, that they've ever been to the Void Realms. So what we have in the Chronicles is simply an account of the Titans philosophizing, if I can use the wrong word for it, but simply coming up with a philosophical reason as to why they think the old gods are there. Right? It's not that they know, it's why they think the old gods are there. So it might be that the old gods, in my opinion, is the equivalent of the Titans within the Void. So I believe that the old gods are the Titans of the Void, with the Void Lords, in my opinion, being the first ones of the Void. I truly believe this, because outside of the Void, it does not occur to me, at least not in this moment in time. In chat, you're more than welcome to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it does not occur to me immediately that there is another cosmological force that functions or that gives us so much information about the hierarchy of that cosmological force. And what I'm talking about here is we sort of, with order, we sort of have the Titans, and then there's nothing above that. It's just the Titans. Okay, and you could say Titan constructs, but Titan constructs really is just slaves. It's just stuff that they made as slaves for themselves. It's not actually part of order, right? It's not actually part of the hierarchy of order. We kill constructs all the time, and we don't need god level powers in order to take out a Titan construct. We just need to work together, and oftentimes the help of different heroes of Azeroth is sufficient to take down a Titan construct, whereas this is not true for the Titans. If we are going to fight a Titan, the last time we did it, we needed the help of all of the other Titans, right? In order to kill Argus, we actually needed the help of every other Titan on the Pantheon in order to do so, right? They literally used our bodies. Canonically speaking, we did not kill Argus. Canonically speaking, our bodies was used as conduits for the power of the Titans, right? So the Titans used our bodies to take down Argus. This canonically speaking. Take life, for example. We have the wild gods. But outside of the wild gods, not much is known about the hierarchy of life. Now we could say Loa, but it appears to me as if Loa is something different. I don't know. I don't know actually how to describe this, but I get this feeling, like we've been told that Loa wild gods, because this is usually how they're portrayed, right? Loa / wild gods, as if they're sort of similar, but sometimes very different. I don't think so. Wild gods is very much part of life, right? Part of the life cosmological force. I don't think the Loa is. I don't think the Loa is. I don't think the Loa is part of the constructed universe that we exist in. And there's a couple of reasons for this, right? So one of them is you take Bonsumdi's meetings with the Winter Queen. For those of you that hasn't played Autumnweald yet, in Autumnweald, and this is going to be giant spoilers, so if you don't want to hear it, go make a cup of coffee quickly. During the Autumnweald campaign, the Covenant campaign, you get asked by Bonsumdi to come see him. You go see Bonsumdi, you see the other side for the very first time, and Bonsumdi makes a joke about, do you like what I've done with the place, sort of thing, yeah? Then Bonsumdi tells you that some of the Loa have gone missing, and you need to help him. So you go around, you look at the different pods, the wild seeds of these Loa, and they're empty, right? The Loa is no longer there. Bonsumdi then tells you, you need to go talk to the Winter Queen. And you're like, why can't you do it? And he's like, oh no. The Winter Queen does not like me, right? He makes that very clear. The Winter Queen will not help him, okay? And you're like, okay, cool, fine. Not as if you have a choice. You go talk to the Winter Queen. Turns out the Winter Queen likes none of the Loa. In fact, the way the Winter Queen responds to that request is very clear that the Loa's problems is not hers, and the Loa should not make the Loa's problems Autumnweald's problems. So it's almost as if the Winter Queen tolerates the Loa using Autumnweald as a place to be reborn. but she doesn't like them, she does not give a fuck about them, and it's only once somebody explains that the problems of the lower is very quickly going to become the problems of the Winter Queen if she does not help, that the Winter Queen goes, cool, alright, fine, I'll help, right? But she didn't want to help beforehand. She really dislikes the lower. So I don't think the lower comes from life. So we don't have any indication of hierarchy within life. You look at the light. Holy shit. The one power in the universe that we know absolutely nothing about. The Naru. That's it. It's just the Naru. They are apparently of the light. To what end? To what extent are they of the light? What part of them? Do they have masters? Is there something higher than them? There must be, surely, because the Naru is not all-powerful. The Naru clearly isn't all-powerful. We've seen them defeated multiple times, so they must be the servant of something within the light. They must be the servant of something within the light. Also, we have a Naru that we meet in Revendreth that states that they will never be able to come back or go back because of the things that they've been made to do. So clearly, the Naru is scared of something within the light. So they are not the masters of the light. We just have never seen the masters of the light. They've never made themselves known to us. Disorder is the biggest fuck up of them all. Chat. Name one Lord of Chaos. Just one Titan equivalent or Titan power level equivalent within Chaos. Your mum. Educated Prime Naru. The lower is the opposite of the Wild Gods, maybe? Might be. Well, Sargeras actually comes from Order, right? Before Sargeras, there was none. Before Sargeras, we know of zero, right? Zero leaders or any sort of power structure within Chaos, which kind of makes sense to me, right? And again, we just go to libertarianism, yeah? If you're a libertarian, you don't believe in hierarchy, right? You don't believe in a leadership structure. You are naturally distrusting of anyone that wants to become the leader. So you set up a society based purely on chance and chaos, right? That's it. And again, I'm leaving a lot of things out about libertarianism. So if you're a libertarian, you feel offended, your problem. Not trying to make a political argument here, just saying, if you have a chaotic mind, if your mindset is that of complete and utter chaos, then not having a leadership structure, not having centralized control, unlike, for example, what you have in Order, where the Titans have a very stringent grip on the pantheons of Order, on the structures of Order, yeah? In Chaos, you would have the opposite of that. So rather than having a pantheon, you would most likely have a fractured hierarchical system, which we could not see. We cannot see. We don't know who is in control of Chaos. And then in Death, we have sort of all over the fucking place at this point. It seems to be extremely ordered, which leaves me with more questions than answers. And also, seemingly the most powerful of them all is also the one that no one trusts. So clearly something went wrong. Something has gone on within the Shadowlands, and that leadership structure also don't seem to make a whole lot of sense. My dogs just went fucking nuts for some reason. So to get back to your question, what happened to the old gods now that we've sort of established it? The old gods, one of two things, right? So first I'm going to give you what most likely is the case, right? Most likely, right off the bat, this is what it most likely is. When N'Zoth died on Azeroth, when we killed him in Visions of N'Zoth inside Ny'alotha, their city, for the final time, he joined his brothers inside the Void Realms. So he is not gone, he is still there, he is still going to push. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Yeah? It's just going to take time for us now to go to the Void Realms to meet him there. On the other hand, what I believe, and what I think is far more likely, I don't think we ever killed N'Zoth. In the longest answer I've ever given, so I do hope that that's worth the $5, I don't think we've ever killed N'Zoth. I think the fact that the patch was called Visions of N'Zoth should have been the first... should have been the first clue that this is all a vision, that what we're seeing here isn't real, that N'Zoth taking us to Ny'alotha is a vision. And there's more proof of that. There's more evidence of that. Let's look at the Rathian fight. The Rathian fight, 100%, is a vision. Rathian tells us this. N'Zoth was simply trying to show Rathian how easy it would be for him to corrupt him. The Rathian fight was 100% vision. We were never in Ny'alotha. We've never set foot inside the real Ny'alotha. That, I believe, is still coming. I believe that is still coming. At least, in my opinion. But I want to hear from you guys. What's your take on the old gods and Ny'alotha, and did we kill the old gods?